This is the Metal Queens podcast. I'm Steve Richards on this episode of the MQP, where we spotlight the fiercest women in rock and metal. It is Larissa Vale, the powerhouse frontwoman of Black Satellite, hailing from New York City. Black Satellite has been making waves with their dark, industrial infused metal sound, earning praise from Billboard, Revolver, Loudwire, Knotfest, and alternative press, who named them one of the 12 bands you need to know. Their highly anticipated sophomore album, Aftermath, just came out on September 5th, featuring production from legends Ben Grosse and Kane Churko. Fresh off tours, too, with Cradle of Filth, Devil Driver, Wednesday 13, and gearing up to hit the road this fall, too, with Mushroom Head. Larissa's here to give us an inside look at the chaos, creativity, and the fire behind Black Satellite. Larissa, welcome to the Metal Queens podcast.
Thank you for having me.
So, you've been described as having a sound that fuses industrial, metal, and alternative elements too. How did you carve out Black Satellite's unique sonic identity?
I think it's a conglomerate of like all the influences you have growing up, you know what I mean? And when we're in the studio, it's just important to be vulnerable and authentic and not focus so much on putting yourself in those boxes or trying to pigeonhole yourself or saying, oh, I want to sound like this or I want to emulate that. That's where it becomes a little bit contrived. And I feel like if you just try not to focus too much on those kinds of things as an artist, and just try to speak your truth. That's when cool things happen.
You're from New York City. What was music like in your house growing up?
So, my dad was always like really supportive of music, signed me up for lessons at a young age, kind of figure out what I was interested in. So I started like guitar lessons at age 9, and then I went on to play cello in like orchestra in high school and college. And he'd get me little microphones and karaoke machines and that kind of thing. So it was just like, any outlet like that I needed, we had it. And it was really funny in the early days when I was in elementary school, I'd make my poor family sit on the couch and watch me do a whole karaoke performance. And I had like the set list all planned out. It was like Madonna and Britney Spears and stuff. And I'd have like costume changes, and it was pretty bad until it got good. But they sat there like good sports and watched the whole thing every night.
Oh, I love it. That's great. How did you get together and how did Black Satellite come into being?
So I thought of the name when I was 15 in my bedroom, thought it sounded cool, just to threw up some music on Facebook and back in the day, and then just going through school and high school, college, still writing stuff. And then I knew that as soon as I graduated college, took off to New York City, I wanted to give this a real shot because I want to live my life with no regrets, so however anything plays out, if I know that I gave it my all, I can live with myself at the end of the day, and that's the most important thing.
Let's talk about New York City. I grew up just outside of it. The energy is always there. The city's energy and grit. How did that affect and shape your artistry being in that city?
I mean, it's a hard city to live in. You have to really love it.
Yeah.
It's not easy to have to carry 4 bags of groceries 20 minutes back to your apartment, you know, or be like, yeah, maybe I can't buy this milk. It's too heavy to carry. No, but I love New York City. And it kind of encourages that individuality, that fearlessness, that kind of like grit that you were saying, because you kind of have to be tough skinned to kind of
Yeah.
live in New York, long term anyway. I was there like almost 9 years. So yeah.
You mentioned doing karaoke to Britney and Madonna early on at a young age. Who were some of your other earliest vocal or performance influences too, along with those two?
So yeah, that was when I was really little. And then when I was around like 11, I started getting into like Marilyn Manson and Korn and Rob Zombie and Deftones and all that kind of stuff. And it just went from there. I think my parents are a little bit concerned at a point. What 11-year-old is like rocking Marilyn Manson t-shirts? But I had an older brother that encouraged it, and he would go to Hot Topic and buy me all of these things for Christmas and the spike bracelets and stuff. And I remember my dad just like raiding my room and like stealing all of my Marilyn Manson t-shirts and my spike bracelets and like my Ozzy Osbourne records and everything. And like he's like, you shouldn't be having this. And I was just so distraught. I'm like, no. But yeah, I mean, that didn't stop it. It was already game over from that point on.
Yeah. Let's talk about the new album. Aftermath came out on September 5th. Congratulations on that release. What does this album represent for you compared to the debut? This is the sophomore effort. Did you feel a little pressure going into the second one?
Oddly enough, I don't really feel pressure with those kinds of things. Even when we go on tour, like someone was asking me in a different interview, like about us going on tour with Marilyn Manson, which we just did the run in May, and they're like, "Oh, well, the fans either love it or hate it. Like, were you guys all like psyched, to go on this tour?" And I'm like, I'm not worried about it. I know that we're gonna crush the show, and like we just do the best that we can. So yes, like I don't feel like pressure. And so I think like it's tying back into just me feeling comfortable with my self-expression, and just going in there and not really thinking about those things because, when you are creating, it is really important to kind of channel that artistry. So, this new record, it's like a departure in a way from the first record, which is a little bit more alternative, but it's still kind of got those vibes going on. So it sounds very much like a Black Satellite record. And, after life kicks you in the ass, maybe you want to write a more angry record.
Yeah.
So I kind of like this like heavier sound, and for this record in particular, it was interesting in the way that I wrote it because the concept aftermath actually came to me before we even started writing the songs. I was just sitting in my apartment looking out the window and I just see like aftermath like in my mind and I'm like, hey, that sounds really cool. And then writing this record was a process of, peeling back the layers and discovering what aftermath means, and then, it kind of went from there.
This single, Kill for You, what's the story behind that?
So Kill for You, I normally write from personal experience, but it's kind of fun to, assume like an alter ego and maybe write from a different perspective that's not necessarily my own in a sense. So I thought it would be really interesting to write about, when love becomes an obsession and how that line can get really blurry.
You work with heavy hitters like Ben and Kane. What did they bring out in your music that surprised you?
So I did this three singles with Kane Churko and
Mhm.
Ben Grosse mixed the rest of the record. So I'll just talk about my experience with Kane. So working with him, I knew that when I went into the studio with him, I was like, okay, I'm not gonna say no to anything. Like, why not be open?
Yeah.
That's just my own ego getting in my own way. I didn't come here to not try stuff. So he'd be like, okay, that's really cool what you did, but like singing an octave up. And I'm like, Kane, are you trying to kill me? Like, are you joking right now? I can't do that. And he was just like, go for it. And then I catch myself in my own mind. I'm like, yeah, I said I'd give it a shot, give everything a shot. And then I went and did it, and I was like, holy crap, I guess I can hit that note, because I like to say that singing is like at least 70% mental. If you think you're gonna choke on a note, you're gonna choke on the note. You just kind of really have to like full send it. And then if it comes out goofy, whatever, but if you don't really go for it, you're definitely not gonna hit it. So that was really cool because he kind of pushed me in a way. So I was figuring out all these different things I could do with my voice and figuring out my range and like different ways that I can sing. So yeah, that's really that was really great experience, and to also remember not to limit yourself. It's not like this is my wheelhouse. We're always growing as musicians, as people. And, as a vocalist, I can always constantly evolve and grow as well, and maybe I'll discover something else I can do.
You've been nonstop on the road from John 5, Fozzy, Cradle of Filth, Deal Driver 2, and now Mushroom Head. How do you mentally and physically prepare for such relentless touring?
Touring is one of my favorite things in the world to do. I grew up kind of moving around. I grew up in Europe, moving every 2 to 4 years. So I feel like this is really conducive to me. I've always kind of felt like a nomad. Home for me wasn't ever the place, it was who I was with. So for me, that was my family growing up. And now, it's my band and our bus. I could be anywhere, even, touring in Europe, in a van and sleeping on hotel room floors. As long as I have my family and my band is my chosen family, it just feels like home. And so I feel like I could just keep going forever. But I understand that that makes me a little bit psycho because not everybody in my camp feels the same way. After a couple months, or the longest tour we did was almost 3 months, everyone's all burnt out. They're like, man, I can't wait to go home, sleep in my own bed and blah, 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 and see my significant other and this and that. And I'm like, dude, I could do another 6 weeks. Like, this is awesome. I don't know why. I don't get burnt out. It's finding that kind of equilibrium. A lot of people think maybe you have to leave behind your life, put your life on pause, put stuff on hold to go on tour. But you can have a life, you can have a routine, you just adapt it for life on the road. Like I'll still cook my eggs on the bus, bring my little egg griddle, we go food shopping, stock up the bus fridge. You don't have to eat like crap. Sometimes days are just really hectic and, it is what it is. But, if you just try to incorporate these little things, it kind of creates a sense of normalcy. So yeah, it feels like it's a continuation of life, not that I'm leaving my life behind.
And a shorter walk for the groceries too, right? Not the 20
Exactly.
blocks with the tour
Yeah, I
bus and
know.
cooking on the tour bus.
You just
That's
pull
what
up
you're,
right in front of
yeah,
Walmart.
you're thinking about that when on the road and going back home is, oh, I got to walk the 20 blocks again with the groceries.
Yeah, exactly. It's actually easier.
It's easier. Yeah. Any standout moments, wild, hilarious, or unexpected from the road that fans would be maybe surprised to hear?
Oh boy. I mean, God, there's just so many. Um, I don't know, man. We've done like hundreds of shows. I'm trying to think of something that stands out to me. I mean, there's been a couple times where I've like tripped or fallen on stage or stuff like that. But I wouldn't consider that like absurdly hilarious. I mean,
Yeah.
it probably looked hilarious, but it was kind of painful for me. But,
So
you
you
know,
you have this fall tour. What are the plans going into 26? The first half of 26. Are you going to be on the road still?
yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's definitely going to be touring in 2026. Everything's kind of getting worked out, so there's nothing I can announce right now. But next year is gearing up to be really another big year for Black Satellite. Especially coming off of this release. So there's a lot of exciting things to look forward to.
Yeah, hopefully we'll see you at some of the big festivals next year in the US as
Oh
well.
yeah.
Yeah, that'd be great. As a woman fronting a heavy band, have you faced challenges in the industry and how do you rise above them?
That's an interesting question because for one reason or another, I don't know, no one's like really said anything weird to me, or, at shows, I mean, occasionally you have like kind of like strange people show up and whatever. But, just comparatively, I don't know. I don't really have anything to say one way or another on that. I just, like I said, I just kind of do my own thing and try not to think about external factors. And I just feel like if you're driven, focused, and on that, and not trying to think about all these social cultural things
Yeah.
going on or whatever. Because for like as a creative, like at the end of the day, it's just noise. Is it gonna make you feel better, to go and look up all that kind of stuff? Not that anyone's really saying anything anyway, but still, I mean, that's not really the point. The point is like I just want to play a rock show and get up on stage and like live out my dream. And those minutes on stage, it's just irreplaceable for me. I mean, just the kind of adrenaline and emotions that you feel like when you're playing a show and people are responding and singing the words. It's like that's my focus.
Yeah.
And that's just so awesome that it just leads me not to want to think about those kinds of things. I just keep doing me and, people like it. Cool.
And don't get in my way because I'll kick your ass. I could tell you would do that too, probably.
Yeah, come to a show and you'll find out.
What's the ultimate vision you have for Black Satellite? Second album done now. Where do you see the band in 5 years?
I mean, where anyone would, who has this kind of dream would see themselves, you like, playing large venues, headlining, just kind of doing the thing. And, people sometimes think that like there's like an end point. Okay, now I'm successful. But no, I mean, I don't think there's no such thing. It's just part of your journey. There's no end point. It's like, okay, you've reached a really good spot, sustain it, write another record, keep working, reinvent, uh just keep expressing yourself. Like, it's not like there's no finish line.
Yeah.
I think the only finish line in life is death. So, it's just the journey, and that's the most important thing.
All right, Larissa Vale, we're going to wrap up with a lightning round, some fun and quick questions for you. The first album you ever bought, what was it?
Oh God. Uh I think it was probably like some Marilyn Manson album or something that I wasn't allowed to have, and I think I was probably like visiting with my older cousins in America and like convinced them to buy me a copy or something like that.
I had a feeling you were going to say Manson. A band you drop everything to tour with.
I would have said, I mean, I'd say Marilyn Manson, and I did drop everything to tour with Marilyn Manson because the way that kind of came about, it was just like a bit last minute. Um, and I had literally had to call my drummer. I'm like, yo, we're going on tour with Marilyn Manson. Can you be here in 12 hours? And he lives in Austin, and he was here in 12 hours. And we rehearsed, and we went out on that tour. So that was actually a really cool thing because that was a dream of mine that actually came true. So to answer your question, it'd be Marilyn Manson, and we did that.
Check that one off the list. One word to describe Aftermath. What would it be?
Aftermath. One word to describe one word. I mean, what other word? That's the word.
That is the word. All right. If you weren't making music, what would Larissa be doing?
This is an existential question I ask myself very often. And the fact that I don't have an answer for that is what terrifies me and makes it existential.
So this is it.
So this is it. Yeah, and that's probably what makes me like just have tunnel vision and this obsessive nature when it comes to just creating and writing and touring, and it's because what else am I going to do with my life? I have no idea. This is my passion.
All right. I think I know the answer to this one, but maybe you'll surprise me. Guilty pleasure song or artist fans would never expect you to love.
Ooh, okay. Um, I don't know. I listen to like a lot of electronic music and soundtracks and stuff, but I feel like that's not like too far off, you know? Okay, wait. God, I'm so bad at these because I really have to think hard. Okay, it's not coming to me. I'm really boring. Like I seriously, I just listen to just like soundtracks.
I thought you were gonna say a Britney or Madonna song
No, I mean,
from
I'll
your
totally
youth.
jam out, in a drunken night of karaoke. Like, just don't even get me started. But in terms of guilty pleasure stuff I'm listening to right now, I don't know. Yeah, just electronic stuff. But
She's Larissa Vale. The band is Black Satellite. Brand new album. Check it out. It's awesome. Aftermath out now everywhere, and it features that powerful new single, Kill for You. Catch them on tour this fall with Mushroom Head. More dates to come next year to be announced, so follow them on social media and stream their music on your favorite platform. Larissa, thanks for joining me here on the Metal Queens podcast.
thanks so much for having me. And I will point out if anyone's looking for any other info about the band, blacksatellite.com is a great place. There's our VIP upgrades as well as the ticket links and our official merch store. And you can get physical copies of the record too on CD and vinyl.
Yeah. Yep. And check out their merch as well. Black Satellite, Larissa Vale. This is the Metal Queens podcast, celebrating the women who are redefining heavy music. Till next time, I'm Steve Richards. Thanks for watching.